Hello and welcome to the next installment of my Iliad Illustrations. I'm Frances and I try to give you a good balance between telling you the story of the Iliad as well as fangirling over the art supplies I'm using while illustrating. If you don't know what happens in the Iliad, that is fine. If you are interested, you can definitely go check out the last video because I give you a full summary of the story there. Otherwise, I will tell you what you need to know for this video to follow along. We left off with the Greeks as well as the Trojans fighting each other. The Greeks came to the city of Troy and wanted to conquer it. The very last illustration I did in the last video was the goddess Athena giving the Greek fighter Diomedes superhuman strength. The gods interfere quite a bit in the Iliad, and this time Diomedes is fighting the fight of his life. He is in a rage, literally killing it on the battlefield. And I wanted to portray that in a dramatic scene in the style of a Marvel or simply a comic book illustration. What is typical for these illustrations is, first off, they are in black and white. And second of all, they do play a lot with perspective. The characters are often extremely foreshortened and it can look almost ridiculous. Also, there are sometimes illustrated sound effects, so kapow or kaboom. In that case, I wanted him to yell arg in his rage. I lent my sepia ink, which I would have initially used with black Schminke Academy gouache for this illustration, to a friend. Therefore, I used all of my black Fineliners. Let me just tell you which ones I used most. It was the Sakura Pigma FB, so fine brush, as well as MB, medium brush. It's what I used for the large black shape. Also the Faber-Castell Eco Pigment and my favorite fine liner brand, Uni Pin, mostly the one with the brush tip. I was really happy with how this turned out, and I had actually only made one mistake in the R, which I covered up with a white Posca pen. Then the next illustration I want to have in acrylics. I get out my acrylic paint as well as the swatches so that I know which colors would be best. Also, I have a palette paper from Reeves, which I always use with acrylics. The thumbnail for this illustration was just lightning, thunder coming down because Diomedes just would not stop. He hurt Ares, the god of war, as well as Aphrodite. He was able to wound them, which I actually show in an illustration just after this. And Zeus has to stop him by letting lightning rain down on the battlefield. The Trojans as well as the Greeks both run to their respective camps and seek shelter there. I did not have the best time with this one, and I'm gonna skip over it really quickly because it is my least favorite of all the illustrations I did for the Iliad so far. I guess there are two reasons I can pinpoint without thinking too much. The first one being I had so much fun with oil pastels, and I enjoyed the techniques you use with them a lot, and accidentally try to apply them with acrylics, which just doesn't work. Second of all, I am in book binding fever. I have some projects and some books I'm binding at the moment, and I knew what was standing between me and giving my full concentration to the book binding was this. I really wanted to get that video and these illustrations out there before I went ahead on a new project. And you can tell. You can definitely tell in this one. I called it a day when I was happy with the mood and having the lightning be threatening. That's when I said, all right, this illustration is finished. In order to lift my spirits and get some motivation back, I decided to paint the next one with oil pastels. I got out the full arsenal, my Sennelier portrait set the Carandache Nail Pastel 48 color assortment, as well as the Sakura, which I don't actually use anymore, the Crépin. I painted Aphrodite's hand. Diomedes manages to cut her hand and she is bleeding the black blood of the gods, which is called ichor. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. You can see how it is written now. With oil pastels, I start by finding all the colors I can possibly find in the illustration I want to paint. I get a layer of that color down, and it might look funny in the beginning to have this streak of light purple just next to the shadowy muddy brown. But as soon as you have all the colors on your paper, you want to start blending, and that's when the magic of oil pastels really starts happening. I use the paper stumps to blend as well as my fingers. You can also blend with cotton swabs. When you are blending, you want to make sure you don't mix it too much, because then it will only become a shade of gray. You will most probably lose shadows and highlights as you are blending, and therefore I went in all 3 times with the shadows and highlights, just to make sure that they stand out. My poor little camera keeps overheating in August always, sometimes also in July and September, and it overheated while I painted the blood of Aphrodite. But all I did was I followed the folds of the skin, the wrinkles, with how the blood would flow down her arm, and I painted it black. Not that much to it. I went in with a little bit of white as a highlight, and then I painted the background in red. I thought it would be a nice juxtaposition to have the background be the crimson that usually the blood should be the color of. I was very happy with it. I fixated it with a fixating spray, and then I continued with the 4th and final illustration of today's video. If you remember, at that point in the story, Achilles, the great Greek warrior, is not fighting. He sits in his tent and waits and watches the Greeks lose because he is still angry with Agamemnon, the king of the Greeks. Agamemnon, while throwing a fit, took away Briseis, who is a woman that Achilles is very fond of, and they had some weird relationship because she is actually his war prize. He seized her and claimed her. Well, anyways, he's very angry still with Agamemnon. And Agamemnon, for once in his life, listens to his advisor, who says, "We need Achilles, we are losing. Please go apologize." He sends a little embassy of Odysseus, Aias, and Achilles' old educator, and they come with a peace offering. And that's not just a peace offering, I'm talking about 2.5 pages. Just a list of all the things Achilles will get if he decides to fight again. He would get so many things: horses, land, daughters of Agamemnon, daughters of a friend of Agamemnon. He may pick 20 women of Troy as soon as they seized it. He would get lots and lots of gold and stuff, and please just fight with us again. Achilles listens to all of this, and then he very eloquently, respectfully, but decisively says and no. And this time I'm talking about 4 pages of him just saying, of him being petty. He is saying, well, what good would these horses be to me when I was wronged so much? I was so sad. What would I want with new cauldrons if all I wanted was not food but respect? He is being difficult. And he just says no. He sends them away. That is what we can see portrayed on this terracotta amphora. In ancient Greece, they produced these amphoras and often told stories or portrayed scenes of a story on them. They have decoration at the top as well as at the bottom of the vessel, and then in the center there is the story happening. There were only really a maximum of 3 colors, Most times they painted in black on the terracotta, and that is the style I was going for with this last illustration. It is completely in gouache. I'm using my Schminke Academy gouache. It's the only gouache I have. I'm gonna be honest, I was simply too lazy to give the Amphora shadows at the side. I called it a day again. But I am very happy with how free of the fall of these illustrations turned out. I hope they could somewhat inspire you, and if you want to fangirl over or fanboy over the Iliad or your art supplies with me, please do so in the comments below. I always love to hear your thoughts. I hope to see you in my next video, which will most certainly be about bookbinding. Thank you so much for watching. See you then. Bye.